And then we can begin. So hello, everyone. Welcome to our latest edition of Jewish Wisdom for Coping with a Pandemic. This week, we are going to begin our exploration of the soul trait of loving kindness. So as is our custom, we will begin with a short meditation. So please close your eyes and relax into your chair and take in a deep breath through the nose and hold, and exhale through the mouth and hold. And again, inhale through the nose and hold, and exhale through the mouth and hold. And as you go at your own pace, as thoughts enter your head, just observe them and let them pass, like watching a car move past on the road. Now is not the time for solving problems. Right now, all you need to do is inhale through the nose and hold, and exhale through the mouth and hold. And on your next inhale, say to yourself, Shema. And on the exhale, listen. Shema, listen. And Shema, we're listening deeply, without judgment, without offering advice. And Shema, we are listening with an open heart. Shema, listen. And when you are ready, you may open your eyes. Well, welcome Sue and Mariana and Martin. I saw Paul. So let's begin. And the prompt I have for us today, so I'm going to talk about acts of kindness. How are deliberate acts of kindness different from random acts of kindness? And if so, how? So I'll put that question in the chat as well. So what do you think? Are these things different, and how might they be different? Joanne, are you raising your hand there?
Yes.
Well, okay, great.
I don't know why it's sideways.
You're
On the
applauding.
Okay, it's like everything's a little off kilter, but yeah, it's very different. I think because I do both, and people do them for me, and like a random act, it's like someone holding the door for you, or you holding the door for someone, and that's which I often do, like going in and out of the bank. And some people, you can see they have mobility issues, or even if they don't, it's still nice. And that's very different from like getting an invitation to a Shabbos meal, or calling someone or send me a card, congratulations on your son's wedding. That's or a phone call. That's with done intentionally.
Yeah,
it's something's just happened.
Great, thank you. Martin, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I think both require certain awareness of a situation. So that's what's in common, I think, of deliberate and random. Deliberate is, let's see, where it may be deliberate as something that comes from ourselves. For example, just to say when there used to be toll collectors on bridges, a deliberate act would be, okay, I'm going to pay for the driver behind me. So
Mhm.
that'd be something
Mhm.
deliberate. Whereas random, as Joanne mentions, if someone trips, automatic instinct, offer a hand because of that random act. So, but both require, I guess, an awareness of a situation.
Mm.
Yeah. Those are my examples of deliberate versus random.
Both require an awareness of the situation. I love that. Thank
Mhm.
you. Other thoughts? Yes, Karen.
My typical New Year greeting always includes or ends with, may your life be filled with purposeful and random acts of kindness.
Mhm.
I clearly believe there's a difference. I think both of them are important. We need to find reasons to be kind on purpose. And I think it's just wonderful to be in a situation where an opportunity to be kind just arises at that moment. For you and the person you're doing that for. And if it's a kindness that the person perceives as such for themselves, it becomes a joyful moment for both of you to celebrate, the giver and the person who receives.
Yeah, I love that. I love that thought that both people get to celebrate, and what you're speaking of is an act of kindness creates connection. That's super powerful.
Mm.
Eliana.
Hi, I almost think of it a little bit different from everybody in that random to me means to somebody I don't know, to just a stranger on the street that I pass and it happens,
Mhm.
or something not involved in my life. Whereas a deliberate act of kindness is toward my children or, toward a stray, to, I don't know, to my family, to my friends, to my, I don't know how to voice that part, but it seems to me like strangers, not strangers.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that was pretty clear.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. That's definitely one way to think about it. Absolutely. Bonnie, how do you approach this?
Well, sometimes what I would say random are deliberate in that if I'm not rushing and I'm in the car and I see that somebody has waited trying to get in and had car after car, I will stop
Mm.
and gesture that they can go. And I deliberately do that
Mhm.
because I know how frustrating it can be to be able to get into wherever you're trying to get in. So yes, it's random. I don't know the person, but I deliberately did it.
Mhm.
The other piece is that some of you are involved with AAI, which is the Abrahamic Alliance International, which is Jews, Muslims, and Christians. And they do monthly kinds of activities, like in downtown San Jose, they bring food to families. You don't know the families.
Mhm.
Occasionally you leave it at the front door, but you knock. So occasionally you'll see somebody. But I try, and it's now on Thursdays at 4:00. So this is a real problem for me. What do I do? Do I go once a month and miss class? I only have class once a week. I don't know what to do because I really like the organization and I like different things they're doing. So it's either 4:00 or 7:30 in the morning to pack farm products.
Mhm.
But for me, I know that it's something that I want to do and I want in my life on a regular basis.
Mhm.
Fine, till this class started. So there are, to me, so many Tikkun Olam projects and possibilities that are out there that I think many of us could spend our whole lives just doing that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's an interesting addition that sometimes we may not know the person, but it can be a deliberate thing. It's like, oh, I'm going to be nice and let this person in. And sometimes we could be doing acts of kindness for, you see that person, but you don't know them, or sometimes you may not even see them, but delivering food can be an act of kindness for someone. Yes, Karen. Oh, wait, let me hear from Sue first and then back to Karen.
I'm just listening to everyone and agreeing with everyone and thinking, what can I add? And I was just thinking about the words. So it's when something is random, it's like instinctive. And then I was thinking about deliberate. I think it's more intentional. So I was saying, I'm making a distinction to answer the question, intention versus instinct.
Intention versus instinct. Very good. Thank you. Karen.
Wow, I love the intention versus instinct.
Mhm.
I just had a quick thought that perhaps since I love both random and purposeful acts of kindness, that for me, it's purposeful to seek them out and want to do them. And sometimes when they happen, that's just random. One of my favorites is in the supermarket when someone seems to be in a bit of a rush and they're behind me and I get to say, here, would you like to go ahead of me, please? And they are like, sure, okay. Or look at me like, that's really nice. I'm not used to that. And I just love that. I'm like, quietly, please, yes, I want to do this and pass it on, pass it forward. We need more of this. That's my take, that maybe it's purposeful to seek out opportunities and sometimes random when they happen.
Yeah, I think that's really a really important addition, that we can create a mindset where we're looking for opportunities, and it's sort of a cousin of what Bonnie brought up earlier. When she's not rushing, she might notice that there is a car. Part of it is not rushing, and we could go a step further, which is like, wow, I'm really going to try to get into a mindset where I'm just going to be looking around, and sometimes just the opportunity drops in your lap. Like once when I was practicing loving kindness, I was working at the public library, and someone came in and she was in high school or maybe in college and said, I'm taking an online exam. My computer's about to run out of charge. Can I borrow your computer charger? So I said, well, I'm leaving right now, but yes, you may borrow it. So, leave it at the front desk when you're done. And, I went back in an hour and a half and she was still there and I retrieved my cord. But, it's like that was one that plopped into my lap, but I was primed to do acts of kindness because I've been doing Mussar and saying the mantra. And so, it's a way, like sometimes these opportunities come up and, and what's the worst that could have happened? I would have had to order a new computer charging cable, but yeah. So let's go a little bit deeper, because I think that relates to this idea we'll look at, our 4 assumptions today. And the one that I think that has an interesting connection is this idea that we all have free will, but it's not always accessible. So how does that relate to kind of what we've been talking about?
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, oh, sure. Let me, I'll copy it in the chat and then we'll hear from Paul. For me, I'm so familiar with these. I just think that everyone is just going to remember it, from seeing it for 10 seconds. So,
Oh, there's no.
thank you for asking me to share that, Joanne. Okay, so Paul and then Martin.
So towards the end of the previous conversation we were having, I realized that the soul trait of enthusiasm was really important. And if you're going to be of a mindset of taking advantage of an opportunity, then having enthusiasm sort of on tap essentially is really important, because there can be times when I know I've had times where I thought it would be really nice to fill in the blank, and then I just start thinking or wondering whether that's really the right thing, if it's, I start second guessing myself, things like that. So that's, to me, that is tied in with free will in the sense of if I have that sense of agency, of feeling like I have free will, that's another piece of enthusiasm, I think, that helps me get past whatever's in the way.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. I love that. That is a great connection between those soul traits. And absolutely, that's, I think maybe this last round, we talked about this idea that enthusiasm is an ornament to the other soul traits. And this is a great illustration of that. It's like, well, I could help this person, I could give them the cord, but then, what'll happen, and then it's just like, no, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to practice trust. I'm just going to, it's all going to work out. So in the chat from Marjorie, a brief definition of free will. So, wow, that we could, and like write books about that. But I think in brief, it's just this idea that I'm in control of my own destiny. I can make choices about what to do, and that there's no like higher destiny that kind of controls my actions. And the question, this idea that we may not always access it, though, is like when the Yetzer Hara, when the evil inclination is aroused, we're angry, I might react, and the words are going to be out of my mouth before I even know it. So yeah, I could say in theory, I had the free will to not say that, but it didn't feel like it at the time. So part of like our task is learning to better access our free will. So that's kind of the full context. So we have Martin, and then Joanne, and then Linda.
Yeah, well, thanks, Greg. I think actually you just commented on what I was going to say. It's because the sentence says sometimes it's not accessible. And I think I said this when this subject came up many months ago. And I think you just said it, but maybe you tell me if I'm interpreting your words correctly. My sense is free will is always accessible, just that we may not choose at that moment to exercise it. So.
That's not exactly how that's what I think it gets, just from my perspective. And again, there's no right or wrong answer to this. I think it gets, and just speaking from my own experience, when I get really angry, it feels very gray and fuzzy. And maybe that's a cop-out where I'm saying I couldn't help myself, but I think, I can help myself to prevent it from happening in the future, and to kind of work on it.
Yeah. Also, perhaps I might say that maybe I'm distracted from accessing it. Okay. But it's always accessible. I believe it, but I can be distracted for the moment. And
yeah, that's a good way to set it. So we have Joanne, and then Linda, and then Marjorie.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that in order to have free will be accessible, I guess we have, I think of the word kavanah, we have to have intention. That we're looking for acts of kindness.
Yeah, and I think, Joanne, if the implication of what you're saying, and tell me if I'm getting this correctly, is that if we kind of set a kavanah to be on the lookout for opportunities, then we're harnessing our free will to kind of, giving it a head start and to move it in that direction. Yeah, thank you. Linda.
I have much admiration for those of you who have spoken, who have just an innate sense of right action. And I don't like it when people liken me to Eeyore, but I live on a street with some foot traffic of people who are coming from downtown, and they're muttering to themselves or yelling at traffic. And so I have to discern, do I do I want to do something? Do I want to reach out to this person? I'm a single person, a single woman alone, and is this safe? And it's easier for me to do something charitable for someone who obviously is in need, but I don't think is going to harm me.
Mhm. Yeah, well, that is perfectly reasonable. You know, there is, you know, our need for personal safety always like has to be in play. And that's not to say that there might not be times where we risk our life or something. But if someone seems to be clearly mentally ill and shouting, you know, that's perhaps not, you know, maybe some people could, you know, professionals or someone who's really good-hearted might try to do something, but it's okay that, you know, we don't do that. So let's see, we have Marjorie and then Paul or Carrie.
Mute. Okay, I unmuted. I like your shirt, Greg.
Thank you.
So for free will, I find that, you know, because of my practice of Mussar, I am finding my free will is more accessible, and I'm still going to have reactions to situations. But I'm finding that my awareness, you know, I'm going to get angry. I'm going to have a knee-jerk reaction to situations, but I'm finding that I'm becoming so much more aware of it, like the heat lam dut process.
And could you maybe explain what heat lam dut is for people who may
Oh
not?
boy, can I get my notes? So what heat lam dut is in Mussar, it is awareness. It's recognizing something,
Mhm.
you acknowledge it, you see it, you feel it, you know, what's happening to my physically, what is happening in my body? You know, why am I like clenching my fists and my teeth? And then you see it. And I have learned to just watch it, just let it go by, you know, because there are situations that I'm going to get angry. Yeah. And I'm going to either take I guess then free will would be my reaction to that in like you see the Yetzer Hara, and then you kind of flip it over. You know, you look for, how am I going to resolve this?
Yeah.
Take a minute, breathe. But, you know, and I just, you know, I'm thankful for my Mussar practice. It's been years, and I'm just it's helped a lot. It has for me.
Yeah, for me too. Thank you for sharing that, Marjorie.
Yeah, certainly. Should I put my hand down? Let's see. Put your hand down. Lower hand.
Okay, Paul, you are up.
So that's a great segue, Marjorie. Thank you very much for that, because that's pretty much what I was thinking as well. And this is just sort of maybe a bit in contrast to Martin's approach, which is, well, it's always available. And certainly I have found through mindfulness practice over the last 20 or 30 years, it's taken a long time, where I'm become aware of how I think that I only have certain choices available to me. And as I become more aware of my internal dialogue that's telling me that, then I become aware that, oh, that's just my dialogue. That's an old pattern, call it. I actually have more choices. And this became very clear to me. I mentor some of the younger engineers in my company. And there's one, comes from China. She has a very cultural approach, you know, that she's still working with in terms of trying to work in a startup company where she still sees that there are only so many choices available to her when she feels the need to shift her career or do something else. And I work with her to find ways to show her that there are other options and to help guide her into seeing beyond what seems like a wall. Maybe it's just a window, maybe you can open the window, you know, whatever metaphor you want to use.
Yeah.
Is
Nice.
I think that that is certainly a challenge for a lot of us, is to remember that there are more choices than we might think that there are, and remind ourselves of that in the moment when we feel constrained. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. And there's a concept in Mussar which was first discussed by Rabbi Eliyahu Desser called the choice point, or in the Hebrew is a Behira point. And it's knowing, it's very related to this idea too. And it's like, and a choice point, we could choose for good or ill, but it's really, where we're kind of on the, it can be trivial things, as I like to say, am I going to have the fifth cookie? And, getting out of the mindlessly just pounding them down to be like, okay, am I really going to do this? Am I going to keep going? That's where it becomes the choice point. I also wanted to comment a little bit, as I've been thinking a little bit about Linda's comment earlier, and just to point out that this can be really hard, and not all of us and all parts of our lives are going to feel like open or giving. And I've shared this story before of how when I was practicing loving kindness, an invitation came out from the rabbi that they needed someone to go to Home and Hope, which is housing temporarily homeless people within the synagogue social hall, and they needed someone else to kind of be there. And I went because I was practicing loving kindness, but it was not like I felt really uncomfortable the whole time. I just, I made conversation with people, but it was not like a natural flowing. It wasn't like, it was like, wow, here I am saving the world. It was just, and I'm not, I wish I had different reactions, but those are my reactions. But at least they showed up, and I did the best that I could. But it was really difficult. So it's not, and that's part of the picture too. And for someone else who, but I might feel comfortable doing some other kind of thing. But someone else, some people can't get enough of like helping the homeless and do these things, sort of do 6 shifts in a week, because that's something they find really rewarding. So it's okay if one particular thing in one particular time doesn't like, we want to be gentle with ourselves too, and say, well, Gandhi would have done this. It's like, well, maybe, but there was only one Gandhi. So Marianne and then Sue.
I really wonder about how much free will we actually have, because people's brains are put together differently, and I think sociopaths' brains are different, and so I think we're acting out of our biology to a large extent. So I'm not so sure about this free will thing. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And certainly the biology has a huge, huge influence, and like the number one determinant of, who you vote for is your parents and who they voted for. It's not absolute, but it's not like, we exist in a vacuum. And sometimes these neural pathways get really, really heavily wired. So that's part of the picture too. Thank you, Marianne. Sue.
So Greg, your comment made me think of this when you said you did the act of loving kindness and maybe it didn't feel as good. I was sort of thinking about the levels of tzedakah, that when you give, whether you should feel good about it, is it still good to give? And then so bringing it back to loving kindness, it seems like a random act, for example, we've talked about this, is when you just go and do something because it feels good to you. You're gonna do something out of your innate love for that person or that situation. But in another situation, when you're asked to do it, maybe you do it begrudgingly, and it's still an act of loving kindness, but it's not with the same intention. And it just made me think of whether that matters, willingly, how do you feel about it when you do that act?
Yeah, I mean, the way I think about it is, we start from wherever we are and we build, and I think a few weeks ago we were talking about fake it till you make it, or as my Mahavruta Henry says, fake it till you awake it, just doing the act, does change our brain. It does change our soul. So I'm also okay with it, that it wasn't, like, didn't feel very natural to me. But my feeling is that continuing to do these things, is part of my growth journey. Martin.
Oh, there we go. Michael Krasny on KQED, he had a guest, and the question that Michael asked was, do you believe in free will? And the answer was, I don't have a choice.
Yes.
Oh, that is fantastic. That is great. Eliana.
Hi, something I just thought of, and the word is spontaneity. I think, let's see, Paul was saying enthusiasm is important, but I think spontaneity, especially for any act of kindness, because if you're spontaneous, you're living that moment. And so there's not as many blocks of, oh, is this the thing? Oh, is this, oh, can I do that? Or, oh, am I going to make a fool of myself? If it's a spontaneous act, I think spontaneity is like a spark from God. It's one of the sparks. It's a breath. It's like, wow. And I think in performing, everything is spontaneous. It's always in the moment, and it's very holy to me. So that's what I wanted to kick in. Spontaneous.
I love that connection between spontaneous and the divine breath. Yeah, that truly works. Sue. Yep, Sue.
Sarah had her.
Me, Sarah.
Oh, Sarah, sorry.
Yeah.
That's okay. I liked that spontaneous, because the example that I was thinking of was a friend of mine's son got in a very, very serious accident, and she had to fly out of state, and it was right during COVID. And I was in close contact with her while she was there, and her son basically was on his deathbed. And I kept in very close contact with her and offered to fly out there, to be with her. And, because I was just so moved, because, I loved her son. And I remember her saying to me, I don't know if it was at the time or later, that she never expected that from me. That I would make myself so available, and it was just, just straight from my heart. It was, I didn't think about it. I didn't, and so so that was a situation where I'm not sure if it wasn't deliberate, it was spontaneous. So, and it wasn't random.
I think Eliana's whoops, were you saying something else?
No.
Okay. I think Eliana's description of that being divinely inspired really fits that. Sometimes something, it surprises even us. I don't know where this came from. It just shows up from the heart. And those are, I think
It didn't surprise me. It didn't surprise me. It was directly from my heart. And it didn't surprise me, because it was I felt so strongly about it. I mean, I guess, it was compassion, and
yeah, that's the good inclination. That's the divine spark. That's divine inspiration, and it feels very, very natural. And you know, because we are wired to want to do this for other people. I mean, it is part of our makeup. It's not all of our makeup, but it is very much a part of who we are. So we'll hear from Karen, and then we're going to start moving towards our breakout groups.
So in this case, I'm talking about the availability of free will. Is free will a choice, or is free will the willpower to do the opposite of what you're doing? Because if free will is a choice, then there may not be a wrong choice in the moment. There may be a better choice with hindsight.
Mhm.
And I was just thinking about that as I listened to everybody else and wondered if anyone else pondered that. So I think that free will is always accessible, maybe in smaller amounts to those of us who are less practiced, and greater amounts for those of us who are more practiced, know how to build the bridges to access it, know how to go in, over, around, under, and through to make changes. Because if we have a positive or a negative reaction to our free will, to our choice, which every one of us can make, that may guide what the next choice is. So is free will a choice, or is it willpower to do good only?
I think free will, you know, we could have free will and choose to do bad things. Yeah. You know, it's just like you're not compelled to a certain type of action. And I think this all can get very, this can get really deep, you know, to really, and we've dove kind of deep here today, which has been cool. But I'm going to share again, because I want to make sure we can get to our breakout groups. So some definitions of loving kindness. One that I think is really important is leaving the path of least resistance to make the world a better place. Like Bonnie's example, I'm going to stop, you know, the path of least resistance. I'm just going to keep driving, but I'm going to deliberately stop my car and help this other person and decrease their frustration, you know. Doing something for another without expecting anything in return, you know. Bonnie dropping the food off for some stranger, may never even see them. I mean, no, there's no return. And I love this third one, which is about, you know, giving money is really great, but giving sort of comfort is an even greater way of giving comfort is really priceless. You know, whereas especially if you think about comforting a mourner, you know, or, you know, what Sarah did, you know, to jump on a plane or offer to jump on a plane. I don't know how that all played out, but, you know, it's very different than saying, well, you know, I'll send you, you know, some money to help offset the funeral expenses. You know, that's not, it's like, what? You know, that's not there. And that's not to say that giving money isn't important, but these other non-monetary things are even more key. So for our breakout, may I have a volunteer, please, to read these first two bullets?
I can read it.
Okay,
The
great.
words, you have to help me with the pronunciation. The words lech lecha vibrate with divine urgency.
Lech lecha.
Lech lecha. Go forth, the world needs you. Yet in the same breath, God beckons. Lech lecha, go inward. With a subtle shift in inflection, the same word convey another layer of meaning. Start with yourself, the places where your own heart is aching, the chambers of your inner palace that are in need of repair.
Great, thank you. So with your partner, I'm going to stop the share here, and I'm going to copy this. So your partner, you know, we've been talking about doing loving kindness for other people, but Rabbi Sharon Cohen Anisfeld, she brings up a really important point that there is loving kindness that we can do for ourselves as well. So let me get the breakout rooms ready to roll here. Okay, so when we go to the breakout rooms, everyone will have an opportunity to kind of share maybe some inner repair that they would like to do. And a reminder, this is a time for, please don't judge, and also don't offer advice, and only share what you're comfortable sharing as well. You can share as much or as little as you like. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. So how was that experience of kind of talking about that with a partner? Would anyone care to comment on it or share? And again, don't talk about what your partner discussed, but about the process or insights you had, or just this whole idea of applying loving kindness to oneself. Yes, Paul.
Yeah, I think that what came to me toward the end of our time was what I needed to learn, because I would have behaviors, I would become very angry inside, very filled with rage, and I wouldn't understand why, because, I was raised to be a nice person, and I try and do that all the time, and then I would just there was this Dr. Jekyll and Hyde, whichever one was the bad one, would just kind of erupt. And
Mr. Hyde, I think.
Okay, thank you. And it was, I think over time, I started to see, sort of what the roots of that were, with me, in terms of my upbringing, and finding ways of being compassionate with myself about, okay, so this is a process. We're going to have to figure out how to not let things trigger me, give myself some space if it starts coming up, take a walk, whatever it is, find new behaviors, and then also find compassion for the person who, as a parent, was responsible for, making things very terrifying for me. So compassion was really an important thing.
Thank you, Paul. Compassion is an important thing. And I want to say, I think nice is really a 4-letter word. I think it really is so different than being kind, that, so often it has this connotation of be nice, just eat it and let it go. And that's not always the right response. Also, so there's all kinds of roads about being fake. And as a New Yorker moving to California, I just didn't get it for a really long time, like what was going on. And so enough of that. Sue, and then Eliana.
Okay, so I had a comment about our session, but just to follow what you said, I was a New Yorker that moved to Minnesota, and there's an expression, Minnesota nice. And, it's like people are very nice, but they won't invite you over for dinner. No. But anyway, or there's Minnesota ice, nice ice. But anyway, so we had I really appreciated the opportunity to do the one-on-one session, and we both shared our heart, which was good. And it's like being vulnerable, and I think that's really important, to be that way and to share it. And we were good. We listened to each other, which was wonderful. And then at the end, we came up with these 2 words, that I think I wanted to share, because it's radical acceptance, of something that's really, that we tried to do, just be, if we can't change it, it's radical acceptance. And we have that choice, we have that free will.
Yeah, radical acceptance. I love that. Okay, Eliana.
Well, we
divined that there were two kinds of broken hearts, one from the world and another from persons, like someone dying. And I don't know how to cure the world's broken heart. My heart is broken every day by the world, but it's nothing in my control. But to get over a personal loss or broken heart from a loss, I just from this little conversation, I realized I could just do the action, even if I don't feel like it, do it. And then maybe the feeling will follow instead of feeling so guilty. I'm so selfish. I don't want to help anybody, blah, blah, blah. Just do it and not beat myself up if I don't feel like, if I don't feel the charity, don't feel tzedakah, So that was our little conversation.
Very powerful, Eliana. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, I think Joanne's going to have the last word, and then I have a poem.
Okay, so I guess what I was talking about was about things that I'm finding challenging from my free will, like when I feel grumpy and I don't feel like talking right now. Why don't you talk? It's like, or I don't really want to take this call. Like, I know it's like, it turns out like it's the Rebbe's inviting you to dinner. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I have a lot of that kind of rebelliousness still. It's not so much anger, but I feel like grumpy and I'm tired and leave me alone. And why are you calling at 10 o'clock at night? I mean, and I guess it fed into this thing about people trying hard to be kind and loving to me. And sometimes I'm not as willing to be open to that, or I'm not appreciating it because I'm grumpy and leave me alone. And, I have this attitude that's not really very nice. And so that's something I want to work on. I'm in a challenging situation.
Yeah.
And I know people don't know, unless I guess I was saying that when I had breast cancer and people would drop in on me, I found it very distressing. So then I decided, let me go to services on Saturday and everyone will see me. And then maybe they won't drop in. So that worked. Sometimes I'm my own worst enemy. I guess that's what I want to say. Okay.
Thank you, Joanne. Well, I'm holding you in my heart, as you're going through things right now, and really holding you in my heart. Well, friends, it is time to close our sacred space for today. And my friend Leslie Clipstein shared in one of my classes this wonderful poem, which I'm going to read to you while we're doing our meditation. So please, once again, close your eyes and relax in your chair. And let us allow the words of Dushana Lameres roll through us in her poem, Small Kindnesses. I've been thinking about the way when you walk down a crowded aisle, people pull in their legs to let you by. Or how strangers still say bless you when someone sneezes, a leftover from the bubonic plague. Don't die, we are saying. And sometimes when you spill lemons from your grocery bag, someone else will help you pick them up. Mostly we don't want to harm each other. We want to be handed our cup of coffee hot and to say thank you to the person handing it, to smile at them and for them to smile back, for the waitress to call us honey when she sets down the bowl of clam chowder, and for the driver in the red pickup truck to let us pass. We have so little of each other now, so far from tribe and fire, only these brief moments of exchange. What if they are the true dwelling of the holy, these fleeting temples we make together when we say, Here, have my seat. Go ahead, you first. I like your hat. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes.